All right, so we bring in a couple of legends in Canada when it comes to lacrosse as a whole. We have Michelle Bowyer here alongside Dana Dobbie as well. They are part of that Women's Box Lacrosse working group. Michelle is the chair of the working group in itself, and just coming off that presentation in November to World Lacrosse and this movement to get the women's box lacrosse into the World Championship cycle. And obviously there's a lot of reasons for that. So I guess I just want to start off by saying thank you guys, number one, for coming on. We appreciate your time here today and talking about this. And we'll start with Michelle on your side of things, if you want to answer this. And if you can, just give us a brief synopsis of that presentation and maybe what you sort of wanted to accomplish in that and presenting to World Lacrosse last month.
Well, we shifted our strategy. We had done a presentation earlier on in the year, and we wanted to make it come alive a little bit more. So we wanted to incorporate a lot of feedback from the actual women and gals out there that are playing the game, enjoying the game, and rather than us speak for them, we wanted them to speak for themselves. So we included lots of video and audio clips and just, kind of personal stories from the actual players of the game. And it seemed to be successful.
Yeah, probably appealing to the emotions a bit more and how to spread this a lot more. And I guess I'll ask Dana why. I guess, I know there's a lot of reasons that, you guys are pushing for this and have been. For you, what is the most important aspect of this and trying to get women's box lacrosse as a part of this rotation on the grand scheme of things here in the lacrosse world?
Yeah, so many components to that question. So I'll try to hit them as quick as possible. But for me, I grew up playing box lacrosse in Fergus, Ontario, Canada, and that's when I first was given a stick and where I first fell in love with the sport. And then it hits you at your teenage years and someone tells you there's no future in box lacrosse for girls or women. So you have to go into this field game, which, don't get me wrong, I love it so much. There's no subbing. You can play the whole game. What's better than that? But just really missed my box roots and being able to represent my country at a world level like my brother could, or, my second cousin, Dane Dobbie, he's out there doing that. And it's kind of if the boys have that opportunity to represent their countries in 3 disciplines now, box, field, sixes, we're really losing out on the women's side of things. And when we get to the Olympics, we want to be able to put a product on our field that is just as great or greater than the men's sixes. And a great component of that is going to be the development of box lacrosse and how that can propel your game forward to being able to be that true full lacrosse player within all disciplines. So there's so many girls out there that are playing at a young age that there is no future right now for them in box lacrosse, or women my age that say, oh, back in the day I used to throw the pads on and it was so great, and they never got to compete at a world championship or play professionally. So there's a lot of people out there where there's this huge gap in lacrosse, and we just want to make sure that we can fill that for them.
Yeah, and I think more of this has come up in the last few years about the women's side of sports, especially in the collegiate level of women's lacrosse compared to men and across the board there. And obviously this could be another example of just making it more of an equal footing, when it comes to having these world championships and having a women's facet of the box lacrosse. Because obviously right now, like you said, Dana, it's just the women's field side of things. And now you get another representation for women in one of these world international events, right?
Yeah, definitely. My first real kind of starting point on getting this women's box kind of going and running at the world lacrosse level is I was sitting in a general assembly and I was representing the sixes versions of the game. And one of the national governing body representatives said to me that I couldn't have an opinion in sixes because I don't represent box lacrosse, that I only represent a field version. And that just threw me against the wall, right? Because if anyone knows me, they know I don't play like a field player. They know I play like a box player because I played that my whole life. And so I was just kind of okay, this is eye-opening. Everybody in this room doesn't see me on an equal playing field to my male counterparts because I can only represent one discipline of the game. And, I didn't want any true lacrosse player that played it all to ever kind of experience that feeling because it just shouldn't happen. So I can't wait for the girls and the women who go on and succeed in box lacrosse and field to just be able to be that full true lacrosse player.
Yeah, and taking those steps to do so. Obviously, we're talking about the aspiration sort of at the end of the line. But Michelle, after you mentioned you sort of appeal now and taking a little bit of a different approach to getting this out there. Getting the boots on the ground. It feels like it is sort of the next sort of facet of this. How do you do that and getting more people to play, more countries to play? What is sort of the next step in all of that to help increase the awareness and increase the people playing?
Well, one of the things we heard from the athletes themselves, we did a survey early on in the project, and we asked athletes what was holding them back from playing the game of box. So one of the key things they talked about is just information. They just weren't finding out about who else was playing and where were their leagues and what were the opportunities. So part of our role, as we see it, is to really push that information out. And so Dana, after we did our presentation, she took it upon herself to start spreading that presentation out there, getting it out on everybody's social media. And then that's just the thing. I mean, if women actually know and they see other girls that are playing, that are having fun, and that there's an actual, light at the end of the tunnel, there's a world championship, it creates a lot of excitement. And we're seeing that pretty much from here, to Britain, to other places in Europe and right down to Australia. People are getting excited about the opportunities that are coming down the pipe fairly quickly too. 2024 is coming up fairly soon, and there's definitely a real groundswell of excitement occurring.
Yeah, and a facet I thought was pretty interesting in that was appealing to the colleges and universities to help sort of grow things on that end. Can you touch on that a little bit too?
Oh, well, yeah, there's no arguing that if you have your roots in the box game, you're going to be a more proficient field player and a better sixes player. So, people like I and Dana, we know that. And now it's just a matter of people just starting to pay attention to the success box players are having in the field game, and now in the sixes game, it's just like a prototype of the sixes, just on a field. So it's just people recognizing that box is the core to all this, is going to make players more successful. And I mean, there's two things there. You may go on to a college scholarship or something and maybe play in collegiate lacrosse. But that may not be what, is out there for you. So now you have an opportunity to play for your country, and you may do both, but either way, it's getting that word out there and just building the excitement around it and people seeing the opportunities that are coming fairly quickly here.
Yeah, another aspect of that survey, I think, was I think you see this across the board, and I think that's been a push for lacrosse for a long time now, is facilities and equipment. I guess what facet, how that's an important facet of this as well, in terms of discussions with countries and different individuals and groups, where are you in that process of making sure that availability is there as well?
You want me to take that, Dana?
Yeah, I'll give that one to the big cheese.
Okay, well, that was a big part of the big pathway development report we presented to World Lacrosse alongside our presentation, and it is a key barrier for a lot of countries. In Canada, we've got ice rinks everywhere, and we don't have that issue. So we've seen some real creativity in other countries. Down in Australia, over in England, they're actually building box and sixes specific facilities so that they don't have to compete. They don't have to, worry about having a facility to play in. They're just building their own. And you're seeing in the States a lot of places where they're just using the pop-up boards. So they're finding a field space, they're finding an area, a parking lot, whatever, and throwing up those pop-up boards and getting people playing. US Box is doing a really nice job with that. Creating their own spaces and giving kids the opportunity to just get out there and play. I've seen kids playing, just on grassy fields with boards around it. So it doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be fancy. Let's just get kids out there playing the game and having fun.
Yeah, and Dana and I we were talking about this before we started here, just about sort of where you guys are at in the timeline. And Dana, I'll give this one to you. And, you know, if you can say how far, I guess, you have to go in terms of doing all the things we just talked about to sort of realize that potential of 2024 and putting something together on the women's side of things. You know, where are you in that space with the work to do that's still to be done in that time period between now and then?
Yeah, I think we're in a great spot. So just over 2 years ago, we were in no spot at all. And now we've really progressed, being able to put so much work. Our working group did a phenomenal job in all facets of what we needed to do. But our pathway development report is really like sealed and ready to be delivered to any country or any program or any region all around the world that is thinking this could be something great for us. And I just think we're really looking to grow the participation of lacrosse in a whole. So what is better than getting a gender and a discipline that hasn't been pushed yet is really going to help us build that and grow. So everywhere another barrier is, you know, we don't have the numbers. So we're really giving people that piece of the puzzle to say, here's a great chance for you to get more numbers, to get more players, and starting out in a co-ed version of the game. So we wanted to play the same rule book, the same arena, the same floor, everything is the same. You can share equipment. You can do like, you know, rent your equipment, reuse your equipment, whatever it may be. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for kids to grow up anywhere around the world to be able to play. So we're in a really good spot. 2024 is shining bright for us, and we're close to about 6 countries. And to be honest, that's how many countries played in the men's ever first world championship. So there's no reason for us, I think, that can't be doable for us in 2024. Maybe we'll get to 8, maybe we'll get to 10. But it is something that we're in a really good spot right now. The momentum in the conversation, everyone's just really excited to get this going.
And it feels like, Dana, that you have obviously know all about the sixes too, that those have fed each other, I can imagine. You know, the concept behind each of those disciplines, I'm sure, sort of feeds into what this could be, especially on this side of things too, right?
Yeah, and that's such a great point. So a lot of the negative comments that we got about sixes was, why aren't we just playing box? Why are we making this new game? And what I consistently had to say to people was, you don't understand, there's no women's box played internationally. So you're asking us to play a discipline of our sport that one entire gender has never competed against each other internationally. So, you know, I think sixes really is a phenomenal hybrid approach to the field and the box game, whether we had women's box or we didn't. I still truly believe, if you've never seen lacrosse before, this sixes is just, you know, it's a super lacrosse sport. It's the best of both worlds, but that's a huge part of it. In order for us to be the best sixes players we can be, playing box lacrosse is absolutely essential, I believe, personally.
Yeah, and obviously it's helped you become a great player and a lot of other people. So it's all the motivation anybody can need, right? I guess to do it.
Yeah, I always say to people, when they say how did you develop your stick work or your lacrosse IQ, how in Canada, growing up in a small town of Fergus, were you able to get yourself to the University of Maryland or to play in so many world championships? And I always laugh because I think about it. When you have little kids out playing field lacrosse, I probably got 10 times more touches in half the time than they did over a whole weekend of field lacrosse. So for me, that is a huge testament to my success. And obviously, you know, my family, phenomenal coaches and just great mentors around me. But, you know, in box lacrosse, you're with the ball, you're on the floor, you're constantly involved in it. Where in field lacrosse, there's just a lot of dead time. And that's both on the women's side and the men's side. It's just the style of play.
Yeah, Michelle can speak from that experience too, and in terms of it's not like it's new, right? I mean, it's been around. This women's box lacrosse side of the game has been around a long time, and it's probably time, you know, and making this committee and getting it more on the forefront of the international scene, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, I was like Dana. I grew up in a small town. It was a big lacrosse town. If you played any sport, it was lacrosse. But you know, there wasn't a girls' team till I was, you know, in my mid-teens and had the opportunity to play. And I mean, it's like Dana said. Once you're playing box lacrosse, you're all in and you're immersed in the game. When I changed over to field lacrosse, it's because there were no more opportunities in box lacrosse. And like Dana, it's not that I didn't like field. I actually really enjoyed it, but it's a completely different game without the contact. And we actually lost a lot of players, absolutely didn't want to play field. They didn't want to put a skirt on and, play lacrosse. They wanted to be padded up. So, it's just now we have this opportunity across the board for women to play all three disciplines. And it's just really exciting times.
So what is the next step here? We talked about sort of the farther goals in 2024 and all that. In the meantime, what's sort of next on your list of things to do?
Well, we do have the potential for a smaller tournament, a showcase tournament. We're working on it right now. We're going to try to run it at the same time as the Women's World Championships next year in Towson, Maryland. It's a work in progress. We're not sure what this tournament will look like. We don't even have a venue, but we've got Larry Fila with Premier Series Lacrosse. He's embraced this idea. He's working on this project in conjunction with myself and others. World Lacrosse is in on it. USA Lacrosse is in on it. So we were just working to make that happen, to give people an opportunity to see the women's box game at a bit of a higher level and just kind of whet people's appetite for the game.
If there's one thing, Dana, people should take away from this conversation we've had, what is it, would you say?
Go buy your daughter, your sister, or niece a box lacrosse stick and get her ready to play. I think, that's the biggest thing we heard constantly in our whole process of this development was that girls don't play box lacrosse. And we were really able to show them videos, testimonies, examples that girls all over the world are playing, and they just want to be given the chance to have an equal opportunity to represent their country and wear a gold medal in box lacrosse. So that would be my biggest takeaway. Get those girls some box sticks and let's show them what the magic is all about.
And I imagine you'll be suiting up in 2024, Dana. Is it ever going to end? Should it ever end, right?
Oh, I can't imagine. Like 24 is like pretty close, but I'm just really focusing on this 22 field world championship and being the best player for my Canada team that I could possibly be. But I'd say don't count me out. I'm still thinking about it.
Michelle, for your message to those who might be on the fence. I mean, you could suit up too, I guess. I mean,
Geez.
If you really want. I mean, why not?
She can run circles around us, that's for sure.
Actually, the ALL is starting up here in Vancouver at the Arena Lacrosse League, and I had a bunch of the girls because I was helping to get it going. Say, oh, you got to come out and play, MB. And as much as I'm tempted, I don't know. I'm happy to see the next, generations pick up, like Dana said, pick up the box stick, give it a go. Girls just. They don't break. You're not going to break. Give it a try. And it's kind of cool to actually, knock somebody down out there and you get knocked down, you just get back up again. It's an intense game. I'll give it that, but don't be afraid of it. And it's just going to make you a better all around lacrosse player. So just get out there and give it a go.
That's a pretty good endorsement right there. Michelle Bowyer, Dana Dobbie, an honor talking to both of you. As always, we appreciate the time and looking forward to seeing what comes of this and the next step in the future here. Looking forward, very excited about that too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to chat about it. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what we're here for, right?